Good morning, everyone. It's Marla Copal, the Vitality Mentor, and I realize I don't even have a headset on, but I think you can hear me now because I believe the microphone would be working anyway. But let's try this again. So I'm Marla Copal. I'm the Vitality Mentor, and this is a video live that I do every morning, and this is day 21. And it's on resiliency. So, in spite of what's going on now, how do we build resiliency? And we can build resiliency in a healthy way, or we can just kind of get stuck. And I'm going to look at a concept called boredom, which maybe is a word that many of you are hearing in your household. And I have to admit, as much as I personally don't want to ever feel like I got into that place where I might say that, there's sort of an onus to that word in my family. And I'll explain more in a minute. But boredom can create resiliency because just out of that moment of frustration, of your norms being changed, and you have to retool your mindset to find how will you not only be inspired, have purpose, but feel like what you're doing now when you're not getting feedback from anyone, when you're not having that social interaction. How do you really feel that you're moving forward? Now, moving forward is another concept, but for me, moving forward is part of my conversation all the time. We didn't know how to sit still in our family, and if you did, you were given another task. So I always remember I was the reader in the family, and if I wanted to sit down and read, my mother loved that I liked to read. I didn't have reading challenges like my brothers did, but there was something about you don't sit down until the sun's down. And, and so if you were sitting down in the middle of the day, you must need something to do. So if it wasn't practice the piano, it was clean out a cupboard, or it was wash the floor, or go clean out your closet. To find personal time in a family of five, it was like, no, there was always a chore to do. And as I look back, I appreciate those chores because they created within me the ability to do something mundane and feel value at the end, to feel like I accomplished something. So there's a lot of things that go on. But if we said the word bored, we got a conversation about being creative. And I realized that I carried that on even when I'm raising my child. But, other than 9/11, I didn't have a situation like now with my son. And so we always found a way to stay busy. I limited games and I limited TV. Why? Well, because I'm a brain educator and have been for a long time, part out of a personal need, part out of having everybody want to tell me my child was attention deficit. But it's kind of like, no, he just hasn't found an outlet yet for his creativity. And I need to find a way to sustain my energy to be with him. Because the more electronics I would put in front of him, the squirrelier he would get. So I learned early on to limit his electronics. And as I gave him things to think about, work on, tinker with, now he was a great one for tearing things apart, never putting them back together, but that's okay. His curiosity was engaged. And I tolerated that because I knew that he was at least in the moment doing something else and whatever his brain needed to do to tear things apart. Well, now, interestingly enough, he's a self-taught diesel mechanic. He'll read videos, he'll study everything he can. He's actually employed. And the thing is he took things apart, but now he knows how to put them back together again. So what did he learn in that process of taking things apart? I have no idea. But if he learned what a gear was, or what a chain was, or what something else was, he also built his first bike. He went to one of those fun stores. They have, he lives in Boulder. So everybody's got a bike in Boulder. And they actually have a facility, it's a co-op, in which all sorts of bicycle parts are there. And they have people. So you can come in and you can pick out your fenders, you can pick out your tires, you can pick out bike frames. And he actually built his first bike for about $50. And he rode that bike to and from work and his workouts, but long before he had a car. So what does boredom get us? Well, first of all, it's a word that actually drives resiliency. It drives creativity. So if we see someone sitting there with a clicker, trying to find something new on the TV channel, well, just know that they're going numb. And maybe it's time to turn that off. And don't expect them to go into immediate activity, because it's actually a form of addiction, this watching the TV, this numbing out to the turning of the channels. But what you do is you just say you have 30 minutes to sit there, and at the end of that time, I want you to just tell me what you're going to do for the next hour and a half, because we're not going to have any electronics on. Now, you as a parent or a spouse have to be ready to be somewhat tolerant of what comes, because that might be the time that they decide to clean out the garage. That would be fine. That might be the time they decide to go tear all the Legos apart and put them back together. It might be the time that your house looks like the cyclone hit it, because they decide to build a fort. But that's fine. Boredom is the signal that it's time for resiliency. Now, a lot of you may think this is funny or amusing or odd, but I got to tell you, I'm 71 and I didn't have a television until I was 11. I was raised in southeastern Colorado. I was born in 1948. And my grandfather had the first TV in Holly, Colorado. And we had a big Channel Master 50-foot antenna out back, and there was zero reception. So today we might be frustrated with not getting internet service. Then we got just enough reception to have a gray fuzzy cloud. And I remember we watched the Rose Parade, which would have been of January 1st, and it was either, I think it was 1954, because we were moving by 55. So 1954, we watched this Rose Parade, and it was really, we watched a gray cloud. Imagine gray, black, and white dots going across the street, and then once in a while you could see a movement, but there was very little definition. But we had TV. So then we moved to California. And let's see, I would have been 11 in 1959. So we moved in 1956. And we rented a TV, I remember, when my grandparents came out to visit so that they could see TV. And we were in California, so there was pretty good reception. It was black and white. But then we moved to Sacramento. And while we were in Sacramento, we didn't have a TV. Mom was an educator. Mom was an English teacher. She knew my brothers already had reading problems, and she thought the TV was the devil. And you know, there's times I absolutely have started to agree with her. But she finally, so here's what happened. My brothers are younger, and the neighbors felt sorry for them because they couldn't watch cartoons. So they'd invite the kids, my brothers, over for watching cartoons every afternoon. And finally, my mother got so frustrated that people felt sorry for them because they couldn't watch TV, that she bought a TV and then she didn't let us turn it on. And if it was our 1 hour to watch TV, every time she'd walk by, she says, "I'm going to throw a shoe through that thing." She just thought it was the devil incarnate in our living room. And because it was taking away from education, it was taking away from the creative mind, it was taking away from the potential of what it was we could do. But what mom was having a hard time transitioning with, she was having a hard time transitioning that here we came from a rural community. We all had chores. And we would leave the house every night after mom and dad would come home from work. Mom was teaching and dad ran the Purina feed business, and he delivered feed, and we had an egg ranch. And we would go out and we would every night we would dad would gather the eggs. We had the first ranch with the cages up off the floor, and my younger brother at 2 was able to put the cartons together. Now all of you see these preformed cartons. Well, in those days they were collapsed, and we had to slot them in just like you might pieces of paper. And then we had to candle the eggs to see if there was a fetus in there, and then we had to buff the poop off the eggs with a board and a sandpaper. There we go, sandpaper. And then we had a candler, so we candled the eggs to see if there was anything in it, like a blood spot, and we would put those aside. And then we had to size them. And there was this little ramp, and depending on the weight, they'd roll down the extra large, the large, the medium, and then we boxed them accordingly. And then Dad and I would take them to the train station the next day to ship out to Pueblo and other cities, and then we would drive to Lamar and deliver eggs. So we had a lot to do. So mom was adjusting to our new lifestyle in California, where there were no chores other than mowing the lawn and all of those things. So I'm running a little long here. I'm not even too sure where I am on my time, but the point is today that boredom can develop resiliency, but you have to allow for the boredom to not be wrong, but also allow the space of quiet for resiliency to develop. Or another word for resiliency today could be creativity. So let's look at how boredom builds resiliency. And I am challenging myself to the next 30 days because the last 2 days were a little rough for me. Just being a person who needs to bounce off of people and bounce ideas off. And I'm even finding that my need for that tactile touch in a Zoom call isn't enough for me anymore. And so I'm looking at this partly for myself. How am I going to keep myself not numbing out? And I really don't. I allow myself to watch some movies or something maybe in the evening, but I keep the whole day free and clear of that. And I invite you to share in the comments what you're finding that your children did that was exciting to you and unexpected, how you tolerated it, and how you're building resiliency in your family. So let's start adding those comments into my videos, please. I'd love it. If you need help with anything at this time, just if it's to yell, scream, or whatever, I want you to text Marla to 64600 and let me know how I can help, please, please. And then if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please, The Vitality Mentor, I'd love it if you would, because I'm going to start creating some additional offerings. And as I work through those, I will let you know what it is. So I'm excited because today I get to help somebody build their website. I'm going to help somebody else market, and I'm going to put out some great information on brain health today. So I have a busy day. I hope you all do. And take that boredom, turn it around, turn it into resiliency, and let me know what you discover. Talk to you soon. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow at 8:30 Mountain Time.